I still remember the exact words she shouted in front of the entire campus. "I'd rather marry a homeless man than someone like you." Everyone laughed. Some even recorded the moment on their phones. Jake simply smiled, shoved his hands into his hoodie, and walked away without saying another word. 1 year later, that same arrogant rich girl was standing beside me in a white wedding dress, looking at me with tears in her eyes. And the cruelest part? She was my wife. Story. I never cared what people thought about me. My name is Jake. According to everyone at college, I was the campus troublemaker. I skipped lectures, rode my motorcycle too fast, wore ripped jeans, and somehow managed to end up in the dean's office almost every month. People assumed I was lazy. Some thought I was dangerous. Nobody bothered asking why. The truth was, every evening after classes, I worked at my uncle's auto repair shop until midnight. My father had passed away when I was 16. My mother was battling kidney disease, and every dollar I earned went toward her treatment. College wasn't my priority. Keeping my mom alive was. But nobody knew that. Especially not Emma Carter. Emma came from one of the richest families in the city. Luxury cars picked her up every afternoon. She wore designer clothes that probably cost more than my entire semester's tuition. She was smart, beautiful, confident, and unbelievably arrogant. She judged people within seconds. If your shoes weren't expensive, if your phone wasn't the latest model, if you worked a part-time job, she automatically decided you were beneath her. Unfortunately, I became her favorite target. One rainy Monday morning, I accidentally bumped into her outside the library. Her expensive coffee spilled across her white jacket. She stared at me like I had committed a crime. "You idiot. Do you even know how much this jacket costs?" I apologized immediately. "I'm sorry. It was an accident." She looked at my worn-out hoodie and laughed. Of course it was. Someone dressed like you could never afford to replace it. Students nearby started laughing too. I reached into my wallet. It contained only $32. Money I needed for my mother's medicine. Still, I offered it to her. "This is all I have." Emma looked at the cash, then threw it onto the wet pavement. "I don't accept charity from losers." She walked away without looking back. I picked up every soaked dollar from the ground. Not because I cared about the money, but because my mother needed it. As I stood there, someone quietly said behind me, "One day, she'll regret treating you like this." At the time, I didn't believe them. Little did I know, fate was already writing a story that none of us could have imagined. Part 2. The next morning, I decided to pretend nothing had happened. Life was too busy to waste time thinking about Emma Carter. But apparently, she wasn't done humiliating me. That afternoon, our business ethics professor announced a semester-long project. Partners will be assigned randomly. The classroom immediately filled with whispers. Everyone prayed they wouldn't end up with someone they hated. The professor smiled as he read the list. Emma Carter. Jake Harrison. The room exploded with laughter. Emma stood up instantly. "There has to be a mistake." The professor adjusted his glasses. "There isn't." "I refuse." "You don't get to refuse." She glared at me as if I had somehow planned the whole thing. "I'll do the project alone." The professor shook his head. "If you don't work together, both of you fail." Emma clenched her jaw. For the first time in her life, she couldn't buy her way out of a problem. That evening, she reluctantly showed up at the campus library. She placed her designer handbag on the table and crossed her arms. "Let's get one thing straight. We're not friends." I don't want to know anything about your life. I just want an A. I shrugged. Works for me. For the next 2 hours, we worked in complete silence. She expected me to be useless. Instead, I finished almost half the research by myself. She looked surprised. You actually understand economics? I laughed. I come from a poor family. We understand money better than anyone. She rolled her eyes. But for the first time, she didn't have an insult ready. A week later, we had to interview local business owners. Emma arrived in high heels and expensive clothes. Within 10 minutes, she complained. It's too hot. My feet hurt. This place smells. Meanwhile, I spent hours talking to mechanics, grocery store owners, and taxi drivers. They all knew me. Not because I was famous, but because I had helped many of them repair cars for free. Emma quietly watched something she had never expected. People respected me. Not because I had money, but because I treated them with kindness. Still, she refused to admit she was wrong. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Emma's luxury car broke down on a deserted road outside the city. Her phone had no signal. It was nearly midnight. Cars kept driving past without stopping. She was terrified. Then, a familiar motorcycle pulled up beside her. She looked up. Jake? I removed my helmet and smiled. Looks like the troublemaker showed up after all. For the first time, Emma wasn't looking at me with arrogance. She was looking at me with relief. She had no idea that this night would become the beginning of everything. Part 3. Emma looked embarrassed. I didn't expect you. I smiled. Most people don't. She folded her arms, trying to hide how nervous she was. My car just stopped. I opened the hood and looked inside. Within a minute, I knew the problem. A damaged fuel line. You know cars too? I laughed. I repair them almost every night. She stared at me in disbelief. You work after college? Someone has to pay the bills. She didn't say another word. For the first time since we met, Emma looked genuinely curious instead of judgmental. It took me about 20 minutes to fix the car. When the engine finally started, she reached into her purse and pulled out a thick stack of cash. Here. I stepped back. No. She frowned. What do you mean, no? I helped because you needed help. I'm not charging you. She looked confused. You seriously don't want the money? No. She had probably never met anyone who refused money before. The next morning, something strange happened. Emma walked into class. And instead of sitting with her wealthy friends, she sat beside me. The room went silent. Her best friend, Olivia, whispered. What are you doing? Emma hesitated. Just working on the project. Nobody believed her. Rumors spread across campus before lunch. Emma Carter is hanging out with Jake. Are they dating? Did she lose a bet? Emma hated the gossip. I ignored it. A few days later, our professor announced that our project had received the highest score in the class. Everyone applauded. Emma smiled. Then looked at me. You were right about almost everything. I shrugged. Teamwork. She laughed softly. It was the first real smile I'd ever seen from her. Not the fake smile she wore at parties. A genuine one. That evening, as I was leaving the repair shop, I noticed a black luxury SUV parked across the street. A man in an expensive suit stepped out. Jake Harrison? Yes. I'm Mr. Carter. Emma's father. He handed me a business card. "We need to talk." Something about his expression made my stomach tighten. This wasn't about college. This was something much bigger. I had no idea. That meeting would change both my life and Emma's forever. Part 4. I looked at the business card for a few seconds. One of the biggest real estate companies in the state. Why would a man like him want to meet someone like me? "I don't have much time," I said. He glanced at the repair shop behind me. "I'll only need 10 minutes. Against my better judgment, I got into his SUV. His office was bigger than my entire apartment. He poured himself a cup of coffee but never offered me one. Then he got straight to the point. "Stay away from my daughter." I frowned. "We're only classmates." He slid a check across the table. $50,000. My heart nearly stopped. It was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. "Take it," he said calmly. "End your friendship with Emma." For a split second, I thought about my mother's hospital bills. That money could change everything. But then I pushed the check back. "You can't buy my decisions." Mr. Carter's expression hardened. "So you want more?" I stood up. "I don't want a single dollar from you." I walked out without looking back. The next day, Emma noticed something was wrong. "You've been avoiding me." "It's nothing." She crossed her arms. "You're a terrible liar." Before I could answer, her phone rang. It was her father. She answered with a smile. By the time the call ended, that smile had disappeared. "We're moving to New York after graduation," she whispered. My father already made the decision. She looked devastated. For the first time, Emma wasn't acting like the rich girl who always got what she wanted. She looked like someone trapped in her own life. Weeks passed. Despite everything, we became close. She learned why I worked every night. She met my mother. Instead of judging our tiny apartment, she quietly helped cook dinner. My mother smiled at her and later whispered to me, "That girl has a kind heart." I almost laughed. If only you had met her a month ago. But maybe people really could change. I just didn't realize. Someone else was secretly watching us. Part 5. The person watching us was Olivia, Emma's closest friend. At least, that's what everyone believed. She smiled whenever Emma was around. But behind her back, she hated seeing Emma happy. One afternoon, Olivia secretly took photos of Emma leaving my apartment after visiting my mother. The next morning, those pictures were everywhere on campus. Rich girls secretly dating the college troublemaker. Students whispered in every hallway. Some laughed. Others recorded videos. Within hours, the rumors had spread across social media. Emma walked into class and froze. Everyone was staring at her. Someone even mocked. "So, when's the wedding?" She looked at me with watery eyes. "This wasn't your fault." I shook my head. "No, but I'll fix it." That evening, I confronted Olivia. "Why did you do it?" She smirked. "Because Emma belongs with people like us. Not with some mechanic." I took a deep breath. "You've got it all wrong." She laughed. "No, Jake, you do." Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Emma's father already arranged her marriage." My heart stopped. What? A wealthy businessman's son. The engagement will be announced next month. The next day, I asked Emma if it was true. She looked down. Yes. My father never asked what I wanted. He already decided my future. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I smiled sadly. Then I guess this is goodbye. I turned and walked away. I didn't see the tears rolling down her face. But someone else did. Emma's father. And for the first time, even he began to question whether money could really buy his daughter's happiness. Part 6, The Twist. The next morning, I decided to disappear from Emma's life. No messages. No calls. No late-night conversations. If she was going to marry someone else, the least I could do was make it easier for her. For 2 weeks, I buried myself in work. College during the day. The repair shop at night. The hospital whenever my mother needed treatment. I convinced myself that forgetting Emma was the right thing to do. Then, everything changed with one phone call. Jake. It was the hospital. Your mother's surgery can't wait any longer. The total cost is $82,000. My heart sank. I had barely saved a fraction of that. After hanging up, I sat alone outside the hospital, wondering how I was supposed to save the only family I had left. At that exact moment, a black SUV stopped in front of me. Mr. Carter stepped out. I heard about your mother. I looked away. I don't need your pity. It's not pity. He handed me a folder. Inside was proof that the hospital bill had already been paid. I stared at him in shock. Why? He sighed. Because I was wrong about you. I hired people to investigate your life. I thought you were using my daughter for money. Instead, he had discovered that every dollar I earned went toward my mother's treatment. That I secretly repaired cars for elderly people for free. That I tutored struggling students without charging them. He looked ashamed. I judged you, exactly the way Emma judged you. For the first time, the proud businessman lowered his head. I'm sorry. A week later, Emma called me, crying. My engagement party is tomorrow. I don't want this marriage. I rushed to see her. She looked exhausted. There isn't much time, she whispered. My father finally knows the truth. But the other family won't cancel the engagement. I took her hand. What do you want? She looked into my eyes. I want a life where I don't have to pretend. At that moment, Mr. Carter walked into the room. He looked at both of us. Then smiled. I've spent my whole life building a business. But I almost lost my daughter. He tore the engagement contract in half. It's over. Emma burst into tears and hugged her father. For the first time, money didn't win. Love did. Part 7, Finale. 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror, trying to straighten a suit I'd borrowed from my uncle. I still couldn't believe it. The guy everyone called the campus troublemaker was getting married today. Outside the church, reporters, classmates, and curious neighbors had gathered. Most of them weren't there to celebrate. They wanted to see if the rumors were true. Did the rich girl really choose him? When the doors opened, Emma walked down the aisle in a simple white dress. No designer jewelry. No extravagant entrance. Just a warm smile that I'd never seen during our college days. As she reached me, she whispered. You know what's funny? What? The happiest day of my life is also the cheapest outfit I've ever worn. I laughed. And you still look more beautiful than anyone here. She smiled through tears. During the reception, our old professor raised a glass. I've taught thousands of students. But these two taught me something. Never judge a person's future by their present. The room erupted in applause. Even Olivia quietly walked over. She looked at Emma, then at me. I owe you both an apology. I let jealousy make me cruel. Emma didn't hold a grudge. She simply smiled. I hope you find your own happiness. For the first time, Olivia realized kindness was stronger than pride. A year later, my mother's health had fully recovered. Emma had started a scholarship fund for students who worked part-time to support their families. And together, we turned my uncle's small repair shop into a successful auto service business. One evening, while cleaning the old garage, Emma found a small cardboard box. Inside was the first $32 I'd picked up from the rain the day she threw it on the ground. She looked at me, confused. You kept this? I nodded. Not because of the money, but because that day reminded me that people can humiliate you without knowing the battles you're fighting. Emma broke down in tears. I'm so sorry. I took her hand. If you hadn't made that mistake, we never would have met the people we became. She hugged me tightly. I judged you by your hoodie, when I should have judged you by your heart. I smiled. And I almost judged you by your arrogance. Instead of believing people can change. Sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with love. They begin with misunderstanding, with pride, with pain, and with two people brave enough to become better than they were yesterday.